Thanks again for joining us for Yates American J180 restoration. In this episode, we're going to assemble the base onto the mobile base and then assemble the table. And we're also going to make some cranks for the leveling pads. These are some knobs that I turned previously on my lathe. I was looking back at some of the video clips of taking these gears apart, and that was 6 months ago. And then we've been working on this project for a total of 2 years. I started right at 2 years ago this month. In general, before installing any Zerk fitting, I like to make sure that it's purged out of any old grease. So I have my high-tech chain hoist set up, and the next step is to get the table positioned onto the base and then the elevation screws installed. So my intent is to install these elevation nuts all the way to the bottom of the threads, or to the top of the threads as it may be, on the elevation screws, and then position the elevation screws on the base. And once the table is in position, I'm going to just manually lift the elevation screws to where the holes, or excuse me, these top parts engage with the holes in the table, and install the gears. That's the plan anyway. These are the thrust bearings that were refurbished some time ago. So just to kind of review from the disassembly days, the right hand elevation screw is a left hand thread, and the left hand elevation screw is a right hand thread. Well, I really miscalculated how tall these stands need to be. I don't need this much space here. So I'm going to go offline and trim these off, and I'll come back and start putting the gears on. So I put a 5/1000 shim between the casting and the gear before I put in the key and tighten up these set screws. I'm not sure exactly how tight this should be. I'm going to leave just a little bit of slop in there. I wish I'd thought of greasing these up before I put them on the shaft. It would have been easier. Okay, these gears are real easy to get to from up here, but before I can put those in place, I have to put the top plate in place because these bolts here are not accessible once the gears are in place. I'm putting just a dab of blue Loctite on these bolts because I'm not using lock washers anymore. So I'm just going to lightly install these lift nuts because when these frames are installed, the table's going to need to be able to move a little bit this way or that way. Now that the table's all together and lubed up, I'll try cranking it a little bit. It's a little bit stiff. There's no tightness in this horizontal shaft, so I'll have to look into why that's a little bit stiff. Next up are the gib plates. Somewhere I got a free sample of this Bow Shield product. It's supposed to inhibit rust and lubricate. Lasts for months. I'll put a little of this Bow Lube on these table surfaces also. And these are the gib adjustment screws. These adjust the clearance between the gib plates and the frames. You might recall when I was disassembling these, one of these adjustment screws was bent, and there's some other evidence that suggests the machine had taken a tumble and fallen. The fasteners were almost sheared off. Try to get these rollers more or less centered between these gid plates. Hey, Gypsy Dog. Well, other than, well, until I can get the frames cleaned up and painted, this is about as far as I can go on the table and the base.